Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So winter is upon us, and with that comes winter weddings. So today I wanted to do a video all about winter weddings, specifically common mistakes to avoid when it comes to winter wedding planning. Now, typically when it comes to a winter wedding, there are kind of two types of winter weddings or reasons to get married in the winter. One is a destination wedding when it's off season, so you are getting married in the winter months. However, your location is probably not very wintry. And the second is to have an actual winter wedding, kind of that snow globe weddings. So today's video is going to be about the latter. If you're looking for a more destination themed video, I will link a couple of those for you above. But today we're going to talk about winter weddings in an actual winter climate. So number one is not having a proper backup plan. You would think that with a winter wedding, this would be kind of a given. However, it is not always. So make sure that you are having a backup plan and a backup plan to the backup plan if you are having a winter wedding in a location that has winter weather. So basically what I mean by a backup plan is if you are planning to have your wedding in a place that is not very climate controlled, so if you're planning on having an outdoor wedding primarily, or if you're planning on having your ceremony in a place that maybe it's covered, so it's not technically outdoor, but it's not necessarily heated, or in a barn that isn't heated, all those things that have to do with the climate, weather, having a backup plan for those. So an outdoor ceremony, if you're wanting to have that wintry, snow globe, snowy, winter wonderland wedding ceremony, this can definitely be done. Of course, you can have an outdoor wedding in the winter. There are some other things to consider when it comes to having an outdoor ceremony as well, but make sure that you are still having a backup plan, because while you might be okay with the snow and welcoming those very snowy, cozy photos, your guests may not love it, and depending on the location, the day that your wedding arrives could be weather that is not even bearable to be outside. So make sure that you do have some kind of backup plan if you wake up on your wedding day and it is negative 20 degrees, or there is a crazy blizzard where you're not even going to be able to have an outdoor wedding. Make sure you've got some sort of backup plan to move things inside or have things covered or whatever that looks like for you. Number two is having your ceremony and reception in two different places, and usually like across town, or two locations that are somewhat far from each other. If you're having a winter wedding, it is ideal to have a venue that will allow you to have the ceremony and reception in the same location, whether that's the same space or on the same premises at least, so that you are not having to account for travel in between. Of course, this can be done if you are wanting to get married in your church and have a reception somewhere else, but make sure that if you do want to have a ceremony and reception in two different places, they're at least A, somewhat close to each other, and B, you are accounting for that extra travel time. In the summer, you might be able to get from location A to location B in 10-15 minutes. In the winter, it might take 30 minutes to get there. It might take even longer if there is an accident on the road, or if you're behind a snowplow or something like that. Account for extra travel time if you are planning to have a ceremony in one space and a reception in another. So this will come into play when you are scheduling your reception and cocktail hour start time. Make sure that you are giving yourself plenty of time in between. You will likely not have just your typical hour in between the ceremony and reception start time. You're going to want to give yourself probably 2. This will also allow you for more time for photos. That way, if you are taking pictures outside, you have time to take photos outside, go inside, warm up a little bit if you need to, go back outside, and come back inside. Just make sure that you are giving yourself plenty of buffer time for essentially everything in your wedding when it comes to winter wedding, but especially for travel time. Number 3 is not informing your guests enough of what to expect. So if you're having a winter wedding, you might assume that your guests will know that it's going to be a winter wedding and that they should be planning and dressing accordingly. Not everyone is going to assume that if you're having a winter wedding, it's going to be outside. So if this is something that you are planning to have, make sure you're communicating this to your guests, whether that's via your invitations or on your wedding website, that if your wedding in any way will take place outside, or they will need to walk through snow, or they will need to drive through snow, make sure that you are communicating that very clearly to your guests. Give them heads up on maybe proper attire, if there's going to be a coat check, so they can make sure they have their warm jackets and coats, and then they can just stitch them when they get on site. Maybe having a backup pair of shoes, traveling there in snow boots, and being able to change into shoes once they get to the indoor portion. Whatever that looks like for you, make sure you are almost over communicating this information to your guests so that they will all arrive educated and comfortable. Number 4 is not providing transportation for your guests. I highly recommend having transportation for your guests in any wedding climate, in any location, but especially for winter weddings. Do not force your guests to drive in winter road conditions or snow if they are not comfortable with it, especially if this is a destination wedding for a lot of your guests where they are coming and traveling from other states, maybe states that don't even get snow, and they are not comfortable with driving or traveling around in the snow. Have some sort of form of transportation, whether that is complimentary shuttles or a bus or a charter, whatever that is. Highly recommend having transportation so that your guests don't have to worry about driving in conditions they are not comfortable with. Number 5, not packing adequate supplies for the day, especially for photos. So having extra shoes is key when you're going to be taking photos, especially. Typically you'll have kind of your nicer shoes that maybe you're going to wear for your ceremony if it's inside, or that you have for photos, like detail photos. Do not wear these shoes out into the snow especially if you're taking photos before your ceremony or before anything really happens. It's okay to throw on a pair of snow boots for your photos, for your outdoor pictures. They're likely not going to be seen, and save your nice shoes for your detail photos or for your indoor ceremony or for your first dance or wherever they're going to be seen, so they're not A, getting ruined in the wet snow, and B, you are staying somewhat dry and not having freezing toes all day. Another good idea is if you are having a flowy or fuller dress that will allow you to have layers underneath, having some fleece line layers when you are taking your pictures, like some leggings underneath your dress, if the dress allows and you will not see them. This can make such a difference when you are going outside to take pictures as well. This goes for your bridesmaids if they're wearing longer dresses that are not tight, or that you would be able to get away with having a layer underneath. Inform them of having some kind of warmer layer that they can put on underneath for photos so that you guys will all be as comfortable as possible. Number 6, not doing a first look. If you're having a winter wedding, I highly recommend doing a first look. I love first looks anyways. I'm always a proponent of the first look. However, with winter weddings, you are dealing with a shorter amount of time of good daylight. So it's going to get darker earlier, which is going to force you to have all your photos finished earlier than, say, a summer wedding. So by not having a first look, you are leaving every photo to after the ceremony, which is going to be total crunch time to try and cram all of the pictures that you need in while you still have light. By doing your first look earlier in the day, you can get a lot of your couple photos done, you can get your full bridal party pictures done, and just a lot of the photos beforehand so that you are not racing with the sun to be able to get those pictures done before it gets dark. Number 7 is expecting everything to be cheaper. So yes, there are a lot of monetary perks when it comes to planning a winter wedding, as it is off season. So there are some venues and wedding vendors that do offer discounted rates during the winter, but this does not go for everyone. A lot of service-based services are still going to remain the same because they are still providing the same service that they would have 6 months beforehand. Venues often will have some sort of break for an off-season date, as there's not as much competition for that, but do not expect every single wedding vendor to have discounted rates for a winter wedding. In some ways, things can be more expensive, like florals. If you are having florals that are not in season or not local, it's going to cost a lot more money to get them in. So keep that in mind as you're going over your budget and thinking about things from a financial standpoint when it comes to a winter wedding. Additionally, depending on the location, if you are in a destination spot for skiing or snowboarding, then sometimes the lodging can be more difficult in the winter months and potentially more expensive. So make sure that if this applies to you, that you are definitely having room blocks reserved at these hotels, and try and get a group rate if you can. But again, know that it might be even more expensive than during the summer months when it comes to lodging. And finally, number 8 is not having wedding insurance. So you should always have wedding insurance regardless of the season or the month you're getting married, but it is especially important in the winter because there are a little bit more things that are out of your control when it comes to the weather primarily. So if there is a crazy blizzard, if there is really icy roads, or there's declared a state of emergency for the location you're getting married in, there might be road closures. Not only will your guests not be able to make it, but your vendors might not be able to make it. You might not be able to make it. There are just a lot of unknown factors and things that you do not have any control of for your wedding day when it comes to winter weddings. So make sure you have that wedding insurance so that if something were to arise where you have to cancel any of your plans, the wedding insurance will help you recoup the money for anything that you lose. So there are a lot of perks to having a winter wedding, and if this is something that you are thinking about doing for your wedding, make sure you're not making any of these 8 common mistakes when it comes to planning a winter wedding. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.